The merchant vessel Eternal Prosperity appeared over New York without warning. One moment the skies were clear, and the next, a ship that dwarfed the largest Earth vessels hung silently above the city. Global defense systems registered nothing. No approach vector, no energy signature, no warning. It simply existed where moments before there had been empty space. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the vessel through her office window at the United Nations, her hand steady despite the gravity of the moment. As Earth's newly appointed Director of Sinological Relations, a position created just 3 hours ago, she found herself at the center of humanity's first contact scenario. The aliens called themselves the Mercantile Confederation. Their message was simple. They wished to trade. They offered technologies beyond human understanding in exchange for something they called cultural artifacts. Their representative, a being that looked like a shifting mass of crystalline threads, insisted they were peaceful merchants interested only in commerce. Sarah knew better. 15 years of behavioral psychology and 5 years of diplomatic service had taught her to recognize patterns. The Confederation's arrival was too perfect, their timing too precise. They had appeared just as humanity achieved quantum tunneling technology, just as the first antimatter containment systems came online. They're lying, she told the UN Security Council that evening. Not about being merchants. That part's true. But they're hiding something crucial. The council chamber was tense. Representatives from every nation sat in emergency session, their faces illuminated by holographic displays showing the alien vessel. Dr. Chen, the Secretary General, spoke carefully. You're suggesting we reject first contact with an advanced civilization because you have a feeling. Sarah activated her tablet, projecting market analysis data into the air. Look at their offered exchange rates. They're willing to trade FTL technology for Renaissance paintings, medical nanites for primitive stone tools. Either they're the worst negotiators in history, or they're desperate, finished the Russian representative, leaning forward. But desperate for what? The answer came 3 days later. While the world's attention focused on the Eternal Prosperity, 17 smaller ships quietly entered Earth orbit. They weren't merchant vessels. They were salvage ships, designed to strip mine worlds of specific resources. Their target wasn't Earth's minerals or water. They wanted something far more valuable: humanity's failures. Sarah discovered the truth in a seemingly innocent clause of the trade agreement. The Confederation wanted cultural artifacts, but specifically, they wanted evidence of human mistakes, failed inventions, abandoned research, dead-end technologies. The revelation came during a routine trade inspection. The junior analyst noticed the Confederation was particularly interested in acquiring patents and prototypes of failed aerospace designs. Not successes, failures. The crafts that never flew, the engines that never worked, the systems that exploded during testing. They're collecting our mistakes, Sarah explained to an emergency session of the Security Council. Every failed experiment, every crashed prototype, every abandoned research project. But why? The answer struck her during a sleepless night, staring at the alien vessel through her apartment window. Humans learned from failure. Each mistake was a lesson, each setback a step toward eventual success. But what if some species didn't? What if some civilizations were so advanced, so perfect in their technological evolution, that they never learned the value of failure? The Confederation wasn't just trading. They were studying humanity's unique ability to learn from mistakes. Every failed experiment they collected was a lesson their civilization had never learned, a path they had never thought to explore. Sarah's revelation led to a radical shift in Earth's negotiating strategy. Instead of hiding their failures, human negotiators began showcasing them. They offered carefully curated collections of failed experiments, complete with detailed analysis of what went wrong, and, more importantly, what those failures taught humanity. The effect was immediate. The Confederation's desperate salvage operation transformed into genuine trade. They didn't just want humanity's failures, they wanted to understand how humans processed and learned from them. But with this understanding came danger. Other alien civilizations began arriving, drawn by rumors of a species that could turn failure into progress. Some came to trade, others to study, and a few with darker purposes. Sarah stood at her office window again, watching ships from a dozen alien civilizations orbit Earth. The eternal prosperity remained, now joined by vessels of various designs and origins. Earth had gained technologies beyond imagination, but at a price. They were now the center of attention in a galaxy that had forgotten how to fail. "We've become too valuable," she told the Security Council. "Every failed experiment, every mistake we've made. They're not just our history anymore. They're the most valuable resource in the galaxy." The Council understood. Within months, Earth established the Bureau of Failed Innovation, a carefully controlled system for trading humanity's mistakes. Every failed experiment, every crashed prototype became a carefully guarded resource, shared only under strict conditions. The aliens never fully understood why humans celebrated their failures, or why Earth's museums now displayed failed inventions alongside successful ones. They couldn't grasp why humans would deliberately pursue paths that might lead to failure, or why Earth's universities taught courses on history's greatest mistakes. But Sarah understood. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their successes, it was in their ability to fail, learn, and try again. As alien ships continued to arrive, seeking to trade for humanity's collected failures, she realized that humanity's imperfection had become their greatest asset in a galaxy of beings who had forgotten how to learn from mistakes. The price of first contact wasn't measured in technology or resources, it was measured in the value of human failure, and the unique wisdom that came from learning to rise after every fall. The quantum processor wasn't supposed to work. By all known laws of physics, both human and alien, the crystalline lattice Dr. Marcus Wong had created in his Vancouver lab should have collapsed into useless noise. Instead, it sang. Marcus watched the holographic readouts with a mixture of pride and concern. The quantum states weren't just stable, they were multiplying, creating computational patterns that shouldn't have been possible. Behind him, Dr. Riley O'Connor, his lead researcher, monitored the power fluctuations. "They're going to come for this," Riley said quietly, her eyes fixed on the dancing light patterns. "The Confederation, the Collective, maybe even the Nexus. Nobody's quantum systems work like this." She was right, of course. In the 3 years since first contact, humanity had learned that quantum computing was rare in the galaxy. Most species use variations of classical computing, having given up on quantum systems as too unstable for practical use. But humans had done something different. Instead of fighting quantum uncertainty, they embraced it. Marcus's breakthrough came from a childhood memory, watching his grandmother's wind chimes dance in chaotic patterns during a storm. Chaos wasn't the enemy of computation. It was its dance partner. The first warning came from the Bureau of Failed Innovation. Sarah Chen herself contacted Marcus's lab, her holographic form appearing during their morning briefing. "They know," she said without preamble. "Our quantum signatures are too distinct to hide. The Collective has already filed a claim with the Galactic Patents Office, saying your work infringes on their theoretical models." Marcus laughed. "Theoretical models they developed after studying our failed quantum experiments. They're using our own mistakes against us." "Exactly." Sarah's hologram nodded. "But that's not the real threat. The Nexus has dispatched a scientific delegation. They'll be here in 6 days." The Nexus, a coalition of the galaxy's most technologically advanced species. They claim to be interested in scientific cooperation, but Earth's intelligence services had learned to read between the lines. The Nexus didn't share technology. They controlled it. Marcus and Riley spent the next 5 days preparing. They didn't try to hide their breakthrough. That would have been impossible. Instead, they did something uniquely human. They made it look like a mistake. When the Nexus delegation arrived, led by a being that looked like a collection of geometric shapes wrapped in light, Marcus's lab was in carefully orchestrated chaos. Failed experiments littered the workbenches. Quantum states collapsed in seemingly random patterns. Everything suggested a research program on the verge of failure. Fascinating, the Nexus lead observer noted, its translated voice carrying artificial enthusiasm. You've managed to create a semi-stable quantum matrix using primitive materials. Marcus played his part perfectly, acting as the frustrated scientist watching his life's work crumble. The lattice keeps destabilizing, he explained, pointing to deliberately erratic readings. We thought we had something, but the Nexus delegation spent 3 days observing, measuring, and dismissing. They saw exactly what Marcus wanted them to see. Another failed human experiment, interesting only as a curiosity. What they didn't see was Riley, working from a hidden lab beneath the city, using the quantum processor for its true purpose. While the aliens studied the decoy lab, humanity's first quantum network came online. Not the unstable, flashy system the Nexus observed, but a subtle web of interconnected processors, each one using controlled chaos to communicate across vast distances. The true breakthrough wasn't in the hardware, it was in the approach. Where alien quantum systems tried to eliminate uncertainty, human systems embraced it. Each quantum processor was unique, its patterns shaped by local variations in temperature, gravity, and even human emotion. They're leaving, Riley announced 1 week later, watching the Nexus ship depart. They filed their report with the Galactic Patents Office. According to them, our quantum research is an interesting but ultimately flawed approach to computation. Marcus smiled, watching the quantum network's true readings scroll across his secure display. The network wasn't just working. It was evolving, learning from its own chaos patterns. They still don't understand, do they? They're so focused on perfection that they can't see the beauty in imperfection. Sarah Chen's hologram appeared again, her expression both amused and concerned. The Nexus is already selling our failed quantum designs to other species. They think they're profiting from another human mistake. Let them, Marcus replied. Sometimes the best way to keep a secret is to make everyone think they've already figured it out. The quantum network continued to grow, hidden in plain sight. While the galaxy's advanced civilizations traded what they thought were humanity's failed attempts at quantum computing, Earth's true network expanded. Each failure they sold became a smokescreen, drawing attention away from the quiet revolution happening in labs and basements across Earth. Riley often worked late into the night, watching the quantum patterns dance. They reminded her of Marcus's story about wind chimes in a storm, chaotic but beautiful, unpredictable but harmonious. The aliens had sought perfection in their quantum systems and found only limitation. Humans had embraced chaos and found freedom. The Silicon Gambit had worked. Humanity's greatest technological breakthrough remained hidden, protected not by secrecy or force, but by the galaxy's own assumptions about human capabilities. They thought they were exploiting humanity's failures, never realizing that what they saw as failure was merely the surface ripple of a much deeper success. In his lab, Marcus added another failed prototype to the collection he would soon sell to alien traders. Each one was carefully designed to reinforce their beliefs about human quantum computing. The real breakthrough remained safe, hidden in the last place any advanced civilization would think to look, in the imperfect, chaotic, beautifully human approach to working with the universe rather than against it. Captain Maya Patel had spent 15 years piloting mining rigs through the asteroid belts of Saturn before the war began. Now, standing on the bridge of the converted mining vessel Avalanche, she was about to prove that humanity's greatest weapons weren't built in military factories. They were improvised from whatever was at hand. Hostile fleet approaching, her sensor officer reported. 7 Nexus warships, standard attack formation. They're not even trying to hide their approach. Maya smiled. The Nexus never tried to hide. Their ships were perfect expressions of advanced technology, sleek, powerful, and completely predictable. They hadn't learned the lessons that every asteroid miner knew. Space was chaos, and survival belonged to those who could dance with it. Begin Operation Rockfall, Maya ordered. Let's show them how Earth fights. The avalanche wasn't beautiful. Its hull was scarred from years of mining operations, with massive grappling arms and mineral processing bays grafted onto a frame that had never been designed for combat. But beauty wasn't the point. Function was. The first alien warship fired, its energy weapons cutting brilliant lines through space. Maya watched calmly as the beams passed through empty void, where the avalanche had been moments before. Her ship moved like no military vessel should, tumbling and rotating in patterns learned from decades of navigating asteroid fields. "They're trying to predict our trajectory," her tactical officer reported with a grin. "Their targeting computers are having fits." Of course they were. The Nexus designed their combat systems to track military vessels, ships that moved with precision and purpose. They had never tried to target a ship that moved like a tumbling rock, its course altered by countless minor thruster burns and gravitational interactions. "Release the first wave," Maya commanded. From the avalanche's processing bays, hundreds of asteroids spilled into space. Each one had been carefully selected and processed over the previous weeks, their cores hollowed out and filled with a mixture of mining explosives and mineral debris. The Nexus fleet's response was precisely what Maya had expected. Their point defense systems activated, targeting the largest rocks first, exactly as their combat doctrines dictated. They didn't realize that the real threats were the smallest fragments, the ones their sensors classified as debris. Detonation in 3, 2, 1. The space around the Nexus ships erupted. The explosive-laden asteroids weren't meant to destroy the alien vessels. They were meant to create chaos. Clouds of metallic dust and rock fragments surrounded the warships, playing havoc with their sensors and energy shields. Second wave, deploy mining drones. Hundreds of automated mining drones launched from the avalanche's bays. In their original configuration, they were designed to cut through asteroid rock with precise plasma beams. Now those same beams sliced through the confused Nexus ship's armor, guided by pilots who had spent years practicing precision cuts in zero gravity. The Nexus fleet's formation broke. Their perfect coordination shattered as each ship tried to deal with threats their combat computers couldn't properly classify. Were the drones weapons or debris? Were the asteroids missiles or shields? Their protocols had no answers. "They're calling for reinforcements," communications reported, broadcasting on all standard military frequencies. Maya nodded. Time for the final act. Begin the dance. The avalanche moved into the debris field, its movements becoming even more erratic. To the Nexus sensors, it would look like the ship was tumbling out of control, damaged by its own weapons. In reality, every rotation, every apparent stumble was precisely calculated. Mining ships had to work in conditions that military vessels never encountered. Dense asteroid fields, unpredictable gravitational forces, constant debris hazards. Over generations, human pilots had developed techniques that looked like chaos, but were actually complex mathematical patterns. The Nexus reinforcements arrived to find their advanced fleet in disarray, surrounded by a cloud of debris that their sensors couldn't penetrate. And in the heart of that cloud, human mining ships danced. "Let them see what they're really fighting," Maya transmitted to her fleet. "Show them what happens when they push humans into a corner." The converted mining fleet moved as one, their patterns shifting and flowing like a school of fish. Each ship used the debris field as both weapon and shield, their movements guided by generations of experience in the asteroid belts. The Nexus fleet, with all its advanced technology, found itself fighting opponents that broke every rule of space combat. Mining drones sliced through engine nacelles with surgical precision. Asteroid fragments, precisely calculated and timed, disrupted energy weapon frequencies. Clouds of metallic dust, the kind that every miner learned to filter from their ore, played havoc with targeting systems. In the end, it wasn't a battle. It was a dance that humanity had been practicing since they first ventured into the asteroid belts, learning to work with the chaos of space rather than trying to impose order upon it. The Nexus fleet retreated, leaving behind damaged ships and shattered assumptions about human capabilities. They had expected to face primitive military vessels. Instead, they had fought shadows and chaos, their perfect weapons rendered useless by mining tools and asteroid dust. Maya stood on her bridge, watching the alien ships flee. Around her, the debris field continued its complex dance, a testament to humanity's ability to turn their everyday tools into something extraordinary. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "Tell them the asteroid belt tactics work. And tell them." She smiled, watching her fleet emerge from the debris cloud, their scared hulls catching starlight. "Tell them that humanity doesn't need warships to defend itself. We just need to remember who we are." The message would spread quickly through the galaxy. Humans didn't fight like other species. They turned mining ships into warships, debris into weapons, and chaos into strategy. They hadn't just survived their first space battle. They had rewritten the rules of space combat, using nothing more than mining tools and the skills learned in humanity's harshest working environments. Ambassador David Chen, no relation to Sarah Chen of the Bureau of Failed Innovation, sat in what the Galactic Diplomatic Corps called the Garden of Celestial Harmony. To him, it looked more like a museum of perfect stillness. Every plant was genetically engineered to grow in precise patterns. Every water feature flowed in mathematically perfect intervals. Even the artificial breeze followed predictable cycles. The alien diplomats surrounding him represented 17 different species and 3 major power blocks: the Mercantile Confederation, the Nexus, and the newly emerged Collective. Each wanted Earth's allegiance, and none understood why humans wouldn't simply calculate the optimal choice and commit to it. "Your species' continued neutrality is irrational," stated the Nexus representative, its crystalline form refracting light in carefully controlled patterns. "Our technological superiority is mathematically demonstrable." The Confederation's delegate, still maintaining its form of shifting metallic threads, countered immediately. "Yet our trade networks offer 23.7% greater economic advantage over a standard solar cycle." David sipped his tea, real Earth tea, which had become surprisingly popular among alien diplomats for its chaotic molecular structure. They all expected him to pull out data tablets, to compare figures, to make what they called a logical choice. Instead, he told them a story. "On Earth, there's a game children play called rock, paper, scissors," he began. The alien's universal translator struggled with the concept. But he continued, "It's a perfect example of circular advantage. Rock breaks scissors, scissors cut paper, paper covers rock. There is no optimal choice." A primitive gaming algorithm, the Collective's representative dismissed, easily solved with proper computational analysis. David smiled. "Yet humans have played it for centuries, finding joy in its uncertainty. Sometimes we choose rock knowing it might lose, simply because it feels right in the moment." The garden's perfect silence was broken by the aliens' simultaneous expressions of confusion, clicks, hums, and electromagnetic pulses that their translators couldn't quite handle. "This is precisely why Earth must be guided," the Nexus representative insisted. "Your species introduces unnecessary variables into every equation." "That's not a bug," David replied, using programmer terminology he knew they'd understand. "It's a feature." He stood, walking to one of the perfectly trimmed alien plants. With permission from the garden's keepers, he was still a diplomat, after all. He plucked a single leaf, disrupting its geometric perfection. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, our resources, or even our recently demonstrated military capabilities," he explained. "It's our comfort with uncertainty. Our ability to thrive in situations where there is no optimal choice." The alien diplomats watched as he folded the leaf, creating a simple but imperfect origami shape. "We don't just accept uncertainty. We create art from it. We make decisions based on intuition as much as logic. We choose paths knowing they might be wrong, because the journey matters as much as the destination." "This is precisely why your species is dangerous," the Collective's representative interjected. You cannot be reliably predicted. David placed the folded leaf on the conference table. Yet here you all are, competing for our allegiance, because somewhere in your perfectly calculated analyses, you've realized that humanity's unpredictability might be exactly what the galaxy needs. The garden's artificial breeze stuttered slightly, its perfect rhythm disrupted by the heat signatures of agitated alien diplomats. David continued, pressing his advantage. The Confederation needs us because we see trade opportunities your algorithms miss. The Nexus wants us because we solve problems in ways your perfect logic can't fathom. And the Collective? He turned to their representative. You're here because we've demonstrated that imperfection can be a strength. He gestured to the quantum communication device on his wrist, a product of Marcus Wong's failed research. We succeed not despite our unpredictability, but because of it. We've turned our greatest weakness into our greatest strength. The garden fell silent again, but it was a different kind of silence. The alien diplomats were processing, their various sensory organs and computational arrays trying to integrate this new perspective. You propose continued neutrality then? The Confederation delegate finally asked. I propose something more interesting, David replied. I propose uncertainty. Earth will trade with all, share with all, and ally with none. Will be the variable in your equations that makes them more interesting. Unacceptable, the Nexus representative began, but David held up his hand. It's already happening. Your civilizations are studying our failed experiments, learning from our mistakes, trying to understand our intuitive leaps. We're not just another species to be aligned with one power block or another. We're the chaos that makes your order meaningful. He picked up the folded leaf again. In trying to decide which of you we should ally with, we've discovered that our greatest value lies in remaining unaligned. We're the rock to one's scissors, the scissors to another's paper, the paper to another's rock. And that's exactly what this galaxy needs. The diplomatic session ended without a resolution, exactly as David had planned. As the alien representatives departed, their perfect formations slightly disrupted, he noticed something interesting. The garden's plants, exposed to hours of human presence, had begun growing in slightly unpredictable patterns. He sent his report to Earth with a single added note. They're learning. Not to predict us, but to appreciate what can't be predicted. And that might be humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization. The human variable, as it came to be known in galactic diplomatic circles, became a fundamental principle of interstellar relations. Humanity remained neutral, but their influence spread in unexpected ways. Their art, their music, their games, even their mistakes, became valued precisely because they couldn't be perfectly categorized or predicted. David Chen would later write in his memoirs that humanity's greatest diplomatic victory wasn't in choosing the right side, but in proving that sometimes the best choice was not to choose at all. In a galaxy obsessed with perfection, humanity's embrace of uncertainty had become their perfect diplomatic tool. The central hall of the Galactic Council had changed. Where once perfect geometric patterns had dominated the architecture, now asymmetrical Earth-inspired art hung on the walls. The traditionally precise seating arrangement had given way to a more organic layout. Even the air circulation systems had been modified to create slight, unpredictable variations in temperature and flow. Dr. Sarah Chen, now Earth's senior representative to the Galactic Council, stood at the podium. Behind her, a holographic display showed scenes from the past 5 years. Mining ships dancing through asteroid fields, quantum processors embracing chaos, diplomatic gardens growing in unexpected patterns. But most importantly, it showed something the galaxy had never seen before: species learning from failure. 5 years ago, she began, humanity entered galactic society as an anomaly, a species that embraced uncertainty, celebrated failure, and turned mining tools into defensive weapons. You saw us as a problem to be solved. Today, we're here to propose something unprecedented. The council chamber hummed with the background noise of hundreds of alien translation devices. Sarah had insisted on ambient sound being allowed in the chamber, another break from tradition. "We call it the uncertainty protocol," she continued, "a formal recognition that progress doesn't always follow predictable paths, that sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected directions." The Nexus representative's crystalline form flickered with skepticism. "You propose to institutionalize chaos." "We propose to institutionalize learning," Sarah corrected. "Look at what's already happening. The Confederation's trading algorithms now incorporate random variables inspired by human market behavior. Nexus research facilities have begun intentionally exploring failed approaches. Even the collective has started encouraging its members to embrace imperfection." She gestured to the quantum communication device on her wrist, no longer hidden, but openly acknowledged as a triumph of human innovation. "Our failed quantum experiments led to a revolution in computing. Our mining ships redefined space combat doctrine. Our diplomatic unpredictability has created more stable relationships than any alliance would have." The chamber's artificial lighting flickered slightly, deliberately imperfect, installed by engineers who had learned that small variations kept minds more alert than perfect consistency. "But the real change," Sarah continued, "isn't in technology or tactics. It's in perspective. Species that haven't communicated in millennia are sharing their failures, learning from each other's mistakes. The garbage worlds where failed experiments were dumped have become research centers. Libraries of discarded ideas have become innovation hubs." She pulled up new holographic images, alien children playing rock, paper, scissors, experimental ships incorporating purposeful asymmetry, art installations celebrating imperfection. The uncertainty protocol isn't just a policy, it's a recognition of what's already happening. A galaxy that spent millennia pursuing perfection is learning the value of imperfection. The collective's representative raised an appendage. "You've corrupted our youth with your games of chance, your abstract art, your unpredictable music. We've shown them that life exists in the spaces between certainties," Sarah corrected. "And they're thriving. Your own studies show increased innovation, improved problem solving, better adaptation to unexpected challenges." She touched a control, and the chamber's environmental systems introduced a slight random variation in gravity, another human innovation that kept minds sharp during long sessions. "The galaxy is changing," she continued, "not because we forced it to, but because we showed another way was possible. Every species here has begun incorporating uncertainty into their processes, embracing the possibility of failure as a path to success." The chamber fell silent, not the perfect silence of the past, but the natural quiet of contemplation. Sarah played her final card. "The uncertainty protocol doesn't require anyone to change. It simply acknowledges that change is possible, that perfection isn't always optimal, that strength can be found in weakness. It creates protected spaces for experimentation, establishes frameworks for sharing failures, and recognizes that sometimes the best solutions come from the least likely sources." She gestured to the chamber around them. "Look at this room. 5 years ago, it was a monument to perfect order. Now it's alive with small imperfections, each one making it more functional, more engaging, more real. That's not human corruption. It's natural evolution." The voting process took 3 days, the longest in council history. But in the end, the uncertainty protocol passed, not with perfect unanimity, but with a messy, human-like majority that somehow felt more legitimate than a perfect consensus. As Sarah prepared to leave the chamber, she noticed something that made her smile. The Nexus representative was teaching a group of younger aliens how to play rock, paper, scissors. They were laughing, actually laughing, at the game's fundamental uncertainty. She sent her final report to Earth with a simple addition. "We didn't change the galaxy by being stronger or smarter. We changed it by being human, by showing that perfection isn't the only path to progress, that failure isn't the opposite of success, and that sometimes the best rules are the ones that remain unwritten." The galaxy would never be the same, but then again, Change was the only real constant in the universe. Humanity had simply helped everyone else remember that truth.